damn, when he was young, he was the motherfucker, dude. And what a dad bod that guy had. There's not a single photo of him out there with a six-pack. And he's widely regarded as the greatest heavyweight of all time. I mean, he might be the greatest martial artist of all time. He's certainly in the argument. The arguments for the greatest martial arts of all time, if they're in their prime, I always say this guy because people leave him out of the conversation. You never should. BJ Penn. BJ Penn, in his prime, was one of the greatest I've ever seen. And then there's Anderson. Anderson in his prime. I was just watching the Anderson documentary that the UFC just put together. Holy shit, man. You forget. You forget those Rich Franklin fights.
I never forgot.
You forget. You forget the level of expertise and precision and just mastery he had when he was in his prime. I am telling you, I'm guilty. Even though I'm a giant Anderson fan, I had to see it again. I'm like, oh, yeah, people forgot.
Well, we had a conversation after the Adesanya fight. You're like, Adesanya's the best. And I go, remember I said to you, bro, relax.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's Anderson. And I love the Rich Franklin fight. I mean, the first time I ever saw this motherfucker, I'm getting dressed. Ready to go do comedy with you or anybody else. And it was a UFC fight night with him against Chris Leben. Yep. I never saw this fucking guy. I heard you guys talking about him.
Yeah.
And when he came out, it was fucking mastery. I was like blown. Then he played the ukulele. I'll never forget that.
Well, I was a giant fan of Anderson's already because I became a fan of Anderson's in Pride, and then Anderson went over to Cage Warriors. And when he went over to, was it Cage Rage? What was the organization that he fought for, that Anderson fought for in England? But in England, he became Anderson Silva. You know, there's like Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira was a really good fighter, and then his daughter was born, and then he became Charles Oliveira, the assassin that everybody knows. But he lost a bunch of times in the UFC. He would fall apart. Anderson, when he went to England, there's something about leaving Japan and going to England, then he became Anderson. So what was the Cage Rage? Right. Cage Warriors is that's like the top organization that exists now in the UK. So he fights Lee Murray in Cage Rage, and Lee Murray was a fucking killer. Lee Murray was the guy who was involved in the biggest armed robbery in the history of the UK. He's in jail now, forever.
I didn't know.
A real gangster, a crazy dude. So he fucks Lee Murray up in Cage Rage, and then he comes back and fucks Jorge Rivera up in Cage Rage. And when he fucked Jorge Rivera up, he's standing in front of Jorge, who was a murderous puncher, and letting Jorge punch him in the face. He was just letting him punch him in the face, just like, but you ain't got shit. And then beat his ass. Then he goes over and fights Tony Fricklin in Cage Rage and hits him with that crazy upward elbow. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
So he fought Curtis Stout, fucked him up, fucked Tony Fricklin up, and then by the time he was coming to the UFC, I was like, dude, get ready for this guy. And I was looking at the line, like the betting line. The betting lines back then were stealing.
Sure.
Nobody knew nothing. Nobody knew nothing. A guy would sneak over, a guy like Glover Teixeira or someone would come over from Brazil, and you'd be like, no one even knows yet. You don't even know how good this guy is. Like in the line would be like in favor of the other guy, be like, oh my God, this is hilarious. I think Chris Lieben might have been a slight favorite over Anderson. I don't even know what the betting line was. I don't think he was a favorite. I think Anderson was a favorite. But either way, I was like, dude, he's going to light him up like a Christmas tree. Because Chris Lieben was just such a murderous, marauding, attacking style. That's perfect for Anderson. Because Anderson's the technician. So he's just going to slide away, pop, pop, pop.
That's what he did. He basically just stepped away, punched.
It's a masterclass. Put that fight on. Put Anderson Silva versus Chris Lieben.
Fucking fight you took me to with Rich Franklin in Columbus.
Oh, yeah.
When the Arnold thing was going on and we were in Columbus.
Yeah.
That last array, when he boom, then he hits him low with a leg kick, and then he punches him again, another leg kick. It's fucking beautiful. I was like, what the fuck? That's how you mix it the fuck up.
And he did it like he was just playing. He did it like he was hitting a heavy bag, just fucking around.
What about the night we did the hit of acid, and that's the night he decides to kick that dude in the face?
Right. Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah.
So this is Anderson's debut. And by the way, Chris Lieben, one of the most murderous punchers. Knocked out Vanderlei Silva, knocked out a shit ton of dudes. When Chris Lieben would connect on guys, they would go night-night. And he fought like a fucking Wolverine, man. Chris Lieben would just charge at you. So, like, that style with that kind of confidence is look how Anderson's moving, baby. Look at that. Look at that jab. Look at that jab. Shucks him off to the side. I mean, the footwork, bro. Look how elegant. Just no wasted movement. And Lieben just moving in for the kill. Pink. Uh-oh. Give me that volume.
Sounded better with a little bit.
Oh, there it is. It's already beginning. Bing, bing, bing. Yep. I mean, Lieben can't even land a shot on him.
And Lieben got back up. Though.
Oh, Lieben was so
nails.
tough, dude. Tough as nails. And there's the knee. And that's a wrap, son. Anderson Silva. That was the big debut. That was like 2004?
Six. I was
Six.
fucking hypnotized by that. Hypnotized.
He was the man.
Hypnotized. I was like, what the fuck?
He was the man.
Because listen, bro, I watched the UFC with you. There's a bunch of chubby guys that look like me. I don't want no part of that stuff. You took me to Florida one time to see Miami when there was like maybe 15 people in the audience. Shaq was there. Do you remember that?
It was a long time ago, yeah. That was the early days.
That was 2-4.
This episode is brought